Now in question 7 we've got one calculating tax, or in this case national insurance, which we have to use the information from the data booklet this year. Now if you're watching this in spring 2025, then you should know that the data booklet for the 2025 exam doesn't have as complicated rules for calculating national insurance. The rules in 2024 and indeed in 2023 were split up into multiple rates across the year, whereas we know in the data booklet for 2025 there is just one rate. There's unlikely something exactly like this would come up in 2025. So let's look at part A. We need to calculate national insurance. There are no pension contributions, and they've calculated income tax already for us. So if we look at the information from the data booklet, you'll see that one period is from 6th of April 2023 to 5th of January 2024. A little bit tricky to count these months, but if you just imagine 6th of April is the beginning of April, 5th of January, beginning of January. So we're counting from April through to the end of December, basically, which is 9 months. You'll also notice that the rule about the 2% of your monthly earnings above £4,189, that is the same across the entire year. So we can calculate that a 2% tax on national insurance just in one go and multiply that by 12. So we really have 3 different calculations, one with the 2%, one with the 12%, and then later on one with the 10% for the other part of the tax year. So let's look at between £1,048 and £4,189. That is taxed at 12%, so we multiply by 0.12, and that's over 9 months, so we multiply by 9, and that will give us £3,392.28. Now we'll do the same thing for the remaining 3 months of the tax year, January, February, March. And we're not counting April because we only go to the beginning of April. And 9 plus 3 is 12, which is the entire year. So same limits, but this time it's a 10%. So we multiply by 0.1, and that's for 3 months. So that brings us to £942.30. Finally, let's go and do this 2% rate, which we spoke about before, which is constant across the entire year. This time we are in the upper band, which is up to his total salary, to the lower limit, or the limit of £4,189, 2% for 12 months, and that will give us £74.64. So total national insurance contributions are £4,409.22. And so finally, to get the net salary, we take his gross salary, which is the £4,500 a month. It's for a year, so we multiply that by 12, take off the national insurance, and take away the income tax deductions, which were given to us in the question. And so he has a net annual salary of £38,872.30, and that is the final answer. Now we'll just make a note here that it's not a mistake that the tax rate is lower at higher bands. So people think it's wrong because they think 2% is less than 12% or 2% is less than 10%. That is actually how national insurance is calculated, unlike income tax, where the tax rates go up in higher tax bands. So now in part B, they're giving us a question to do about inflation. There have been several questions very similar to this before, so I don't know if they're limited on their ideas of what they want to ask you about inflation. So 2-mark question, we are given consumer price index, which is an index of prices representing how expensive things are in one year and in the next year. And we also see how his salary changed from one year to the next. And the question is, has his salary increased in line with inflation? In other words, is it keeping up, or his pay increase is keeping up with things getting more expensive to buy? So let's make a little table with the information so we can understand what's going on. April 2022, April 2023. Let's look at the inflation index. Goes up from 119.0 to 128.3. So let's find out percentage by which inflation increased, by which prices increased. Simplest way to calculate inflation, a percentage increase, is divide the new one by the old one. 128.3 divided by 119.0. And that will give us 1.0781. 5 ... You can interpret it as a 7.8% increase, which you could work out by multiplying by 100 and then taking away 100 would give you 7.8% or 7.82%, and that's an increase. So inflation, or the prices, have gone up by 7.82%. What about his salary? Well, let's find out. So his salary was £4,200 per month, and then it's going to £4,500. We'll do the same thing, new divide by old, and we will get 1.07142. So 7.14% increase, not quite keeping up with the 7.82% inflation. So that's the conclusion. No, his salary has not increased in line with the CPI because the 7.14% is less than the 7.82% increase. So it appears the times are hard, but we have to do the best that we can under the circumstances.